Story Quest. Today, I will be reading Little Woman, Chapter 27, Part 1. Fortune suddenly smiled upon Jo and dropped a good luck penny in her path. Not a golden penny exactly, but I doubt if $500,000 would have given more real happiness than did the little sum that came to her in this wise. Every few weeks, she would shut herself up in her room and put on her scribbling suit and fall into a vortex, as she expressed it, writing away at her novel with all her heart and soul. For till that she was finished, she would find no peace. Her scribbling suit consisted of a black woolen pinafore on which she could wipe her pen at will, and a cap of the same material, adorned with a cheerful red bow, into which she burned her hair, when the decks were cleared for action. This cap was a beacon to the inquiring eyes of her family, who during this period kept their distance, merely popping in their heads semi-occasionally to ask with interest, "Does genius burn, Jo?" They did not always venture even to ask this question, but took an observation of the cap and judged accordingly. If this expressive article of dress was drawn low upon the forehead, it was a sign that hard work was going on. In exciting moments, it was pushed rakishly askew, and when desire seized the author, it was plucked wholly off and cast upon the floor. At such times, the intruder silently withdrew, and not until the red bow was seen happily erect upon the gifted brow did anyone dare address Jo. She did not think herself a genius by any means, but when the writing fit came on, she gave herself up to it with entire abandon, and led a blissful life, unconscious of want, care, or bad weather, while she sat safe and happy in an imaginary world full of friends, almost as real and dear to her as any in the flesh. Sleep for so clear eyes, meals stood untasted, day and night were all too short to enjoy the happiness which blessed her only at such times. It made these hours worth living, even if they bore no other fruit. The divine afflatus usually lasted a week or two, and then she emerged from her vortex, hungry, sleepy, cross, or despondent. She was just recovering from one of these attacks when she was prevailed upon to escort Miss Crocker to a lecture, and in return for her virtue was rewarded with a new idea. It was a people's course, the lecture on the pyramids, and Jo rather wondered at the choice of such a subject for such an audience, but took it for granted that some great social evil would be remedied, or some great want supplied by unfolding the glorious of the pharaohs to an audience whose thoughts were busy with the price of coal and flour, and whose lives were spent in trying to solve harder riddles than that of the Sphinx. They were early, while Miss Crocker set the heel of her stocking. Jo amused herself by examining the faces of the people who occupied the seat with them on her left massive foreheads and bonnets to match, discussing women's rights and making dating. Beyond sat a pair of humble lovers, artlessly holding each other by the hand. A somber spinster eating peppermints out of a paper bag, and an old gentleman taking his preparatory nap behind a yellow bandana. On her right, her only neighbor was a studious-looking lad, absorbed in a newspaper. It was a pictorial sheet, and Joe examined the work of art nearest her, idly wondering what fortuitous concatenation of circumstances needed the melodramatic illusion of a native in full war costume tumbling over a precipice of a wolf at his throat, while two infuriated young gentlemen with unnaturally small feet and big eyes were stabbing each other close by, and a disheveled female was flying away in the background with her mouth wide open, pausing to turn a page. The lad saw her looking, and with a boyish good nature offered half his paper, saying bluntly, "Want to read it? That's a first-rate story." Joe accepted it with a smile, for she had never outgrown her liking for lads, and soon found herself involved in the usual labyrinth of love, mystery, and murder, for the story belonged to that class of light literature at which the passions of a holiday, when the author's invitation fails, a grand catastrophe clears the stage of one half the dramatist's persona, leaving the other half to exult over their downfall. "Rhyme, isn't it?" asked the boy as her eyes went down the last paragraph of her portion. "I think you and I could do as well as that if we tried," returned Joe, amused at his admiration of the trash. "I should think I was pretty lucky chap if I could. She makes a good living out such stories, they say," and he pointed to the name Miss Lang Northbury under the title of the tale. "Do you know her?" asked Joe with a sudden interest. "No, but I read all her pieces. I know a fellow who works in the office where the paper is printed." "Do you say she makes a good living out of stories like this?" And Joe looked more respectfully at the agitated group, and thickly sprinkled explanation points that adorned the page. "Guess she does. She knows just what folks like, and gets paid well for writing it." Here the lecture began, but Joe heard very little of it, for Professor Sands was prosing away about Belzoni, Cheops, Scarabi, and hieroglyphics. She was covertly taking down the address of the paper and boldly resolving to try for $100 prize offered in its columns for a sensational story. By the time the lecture ended and the audience awoke, she had built a splendid fortune for herself, not the first found on paper, and was already deep in concoction of her story, being unable to decide whether to duel should come before the elopement or after the murder. She said nothing of her plan at home, but fell to work the next day, much to the disquiet of her mother, who always looked a little anxious when genius took to burning. Joe never tried this style before, contenting herself with the very mild romances for the Spread Eagle. Her experience and miscellaneous readings were of service now, for they gave her some idea of dramatic effect is applied plot, language, and costumes. Her story was as full of desperation and despair as her limited acquaintance with those uncomfortable emotions enabled her to make it, and having located it in Lisbon, she wound up with an earthquake as a striking, inappropriate denouement. The manuscript was privately dispatched, accompanied by a note modestly saying that if the tale didn't get the prize, which the reader hardly dared expected, she would be very glad to receive any sum it might be considered worth. 6 weeks is a long time to wait, and a still longer time for a girl to keep a secret, but Jo did both, and was just beginning to give up all hope of ever seeing her manuscript again when a letter arrived which almost took her breath away. For one, on opening it, a check for $100 fell into her lap. For a minute, she stared at it as if it had been a snake. Then she read her letter and began to cry. If the amiable gentleman wrote that, kindly know, could have known what intense happiness he was giving a fellow creature, I think he would devote his leisure hours, if he has any, to the amusements, for Jo valued the letter more than the money, because it was encouraging, and after years of effort, it was so pleasant to find that she had learned to do something, though it was only to write a sensation story. A prouder young woman was seldom seen than she. When, having composed herself, she electrified the family by appearing before them with the letter in one hand, the check in the other, announcing that she had won the prize. Of course, there was great jubilee, but when the story came, everyone read it, embraced it, though after her father had told her the language was good, the romance fresh and hearty, and the tragedy quite thrilling. He shook his head and said in his unworldly way, "Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and comment down below. And if you have not done so already, please subscribe and hit that bell notification for future videos. And when you get a chance, please check out my second channel and podcast called Viva Quest. Thank you.